I want to share a little bit about myself for those that don't know me. As I've said, my name is Mara Walsh. I am in the United States and specifically between Philadelphia and New York. I started leading physical tours with EF Tours as a Girl Scout leader, taking girls and their families to international destinations every summer. I have since expanded my travel program, the physical travel program that is, and now I also lead adult only tours. I use EF Go Ahead tours mainly, but I also use other organizations. I also offer family friendly tours and those specifically geared towards teenagers and above. And as a certified travel agent, I can also book you on your dream trip as part of a group or on your own. Just reach out to me if you're starting to think about physical travel and let me know where you want to go, and I'd be happy to help you. In terms of the virtual tours, there's a couple reasons I started this series. I really wanted to start and support the tour director community during this time of travel restrictions where there has not been any work for these folks. And I really wanted to keep the excitement of travel alive for my travel group and extend that opportunity to those of you who've learned about us through your friends, your family, social media, and other means. We've done more than 30 tours in the last year since COVID struck. If you'd like to go back and access the recordings to them, please do so on my website, girltraveltours.com. You can go to the virtual tours toolbar menu and scroll down and see many, many, many recordings of tours. You can also view them on Facebook or on our YouTube channel. We have several more tours planned for the coming months, and we are planning through the summertime. So next week, we're going to go to Mexico for Cinco de Mayo. We're on to Jerusalem, Belgium, Portugal. We're doing a mystery on the Danube. It's going to be a river cruise tour. The south of France, ancient Rome, Sydney, Australia, Wales and Cornwall, the Taj Mahal, Venice, and Western Scotland. A few of these have not yet been added to my website, but I will try my best to get these up this weekend so that you can register for them as well. You do have to register for each tour individually. It gives us a better understanding of the numbers and the people that will be attending. So I'm sorry if that seems a bit redundant, but it is a necessary evil for being able to keep track. And I am in the midst of planning many more for the end of the summer going into the fall. Some of those might include Chile, Salzburg, and some other surprises that we have ready for you. As long as you're interested in viewing these virtual tours, we will continue to produce them for you. And I know many of you have found us and our virtual tours on Facebook. I just wanted to give another shout out warning. Just be careful of the scammers on Facebook. They make fake pages and events, and they copy legitimate events like mine. And they ask you to provide a credit card on entry. And that's just not what any of the free virtual tours do. So please be aware of that and never provide a credit card before you actually enter and see a virtual tour. If you choose to leave a tip later on through your credit card, that's your prerogative, but please don't give credit cards before you've gotten anything out of the tour. Okay, so let's move along here. Before we get going, I want to share a few ways that you can interact with us. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom. You can ask questions for the speaker, who is our tour guide, or for me. If you want to drop a comment or something that's specific to me, do that through the chat, and I'll be able to correspond with you that way. And let's see, as most of you know, I always like to include an interactive poll. It gives us an understanding of what your knowledge is to the region that we're going to travel to. So what's your connection to Andalusia and southern Spain? So it's I've been and love it. I have a trip booked. I plan to go in the future. I have no set plans, but I'm interested in the location, or I am solely interested in experiencing it virtually. We're going to let the people that are in the Zoom give us an answer to that. And for the Facebook folks, you can just pop your response in the feed and we'll get a sense of where you're coming from as well. Okay, I am going to end the poll so that we can see what everybody's thoughts are. So it looks like most people are planning maybe to go in the future, but there's a lot of people, 32%, that have been and loved it. So that's awesome. So that gives us an understanding of who we are here and what our interests are in southern Spain. If your poll bar does not go down from your Zoom toolbar, just go up to the top left and click on the red button. That should get rid of the poll for you. Okay, so as we said, today's tour is to Andalusia, southern Spain. And I'm so excited because I have a real life tour scheduled for April of 2023, which includes several of the same destinations as this virtual presentation does. So if you're interested in making this adventure a reality, let me know and I'll share in the chat where you can join us for a review of this tour on Zoom on May 6th, which we're going to do a Toast the Tour, including my tour to Portugal, southern Spain, and actually a lot of Spain and Morocco. So this virtual tour is scheduled for 90 minutes plus a Q&A. That includes the 10 minutes that I'm chatting with you, and I apologize for that, but some of it is a necessary introduction. As we know, a group would not be complete without a fantastic tour director. A tour director is like a personal concierge. He's with your group from start to finish. He shares his knowledge, manages all the travel plans, and makes sure that your experience is full of learning, fun, and culture, and not stressful, and is easy to navigate. These are by far the most important people in a group tour. And if we're not traveling, we know that they are not traveling either, nor are they making money, because this is their livelihood. So I will share with you in the chat and possibly in the Q&A how you can tip the tour director if you're so inclined. I'll also put that on Facebook. I'm hoping that these virtual tours will not only keep our desire to travel alive, but allow a tour director to do what he does best. Today, we're lucky to have back our Spaniard friend, Manuel, who has also brought us a tour presentation to Madrid's Prado Museum and Gaudi's Barcelona. Manuel, come on and say hola to our guests and get ready to share your screen. If you're ready, I will hand the program over to you and you can take it from here.
Yeah, I'm ready. Hello, Mara. How are you?
I'm good tonight. Can you share your screen from there, Manuel?
Yes. Yes. 1 sec. I'm going to share. Okay. Here we are. Hello, everyone. Okay. So thank you so much, Mara, for having me again. I'm very happy to share with you this beautiful part of Spain, which is Andalusia. For those that don't know me, let me tell you that I've been working as a tour director the last 15 years, not these last 2, sadly, but still doing things like these wonderful virtual tours. I work with EF, as Mara told you, and with other international companies. We are just waiting for the tourism getting back to business and you know, to do what we love the most, which is traveling. This is a virtual way to do it, and I hope you also will enjoy it. So welcome to Andalusia. Let's start the tour here. Well, we are in Spain. Some of you probably have been visiting or touring our country. This is the Iberian Peninsula, as you could see, with little funny pictures, the capital in Madrid, Barcelona in the north, Bilbao, but we are going to do this time the southern part of Spain, that we say in Spanish, Andalusia. In English, normally you say Andalusia. This is Andalusia, the very south, where the topics like the flamenco, the bullfighting, the good wine, the Iberian ham. So let's take a look into this region of Spain. Andalusia, as many other regions in Spain, we have 17, is an autonomous community. It works like a state. We are not a federal government, but pretty much. So it has its own flag, its own government, its own parliament. It's the second largest region in Spain, with about 33,700 square miles. And it's the first in population, with about 8,500,000 inhabitants. It is divided in 8 provinces, and in total they have almost 800 municipalities. So we are going to have first like a little overview of the provinces. We are not stopping in all of them because it's going to be very long. So we'll stop in some important cities, but let's take a look over the region. We could start in Jaén, with this strong sound for the J. This is the capital of the olive oil. Spain is the largest producer of olive oil in the world. And within Spain, Andalusia, and in Andalusia, the province of Jaén is the capital of that industry. So you, when you travel through Jaén, you only will see these thousands, millions of olive trees. But also they have another sites like the cities of Úbeda and Baeza, World Heritage sites, very beautiful in Renaissance buildings. From Jaén, we could move to Cordoba. This is one of the cities, the first city we are going to stop by, with the famous mosque. And from there to Huelva, in the Atlantic shore of the region. Is not very well known for the foreigners, but we know it very well because they have one of the most delicious Iberian ham in that area of Huelva. And also, probably you have heard about Puerto de Palos, because this is the place from where Christopherus Columbus departed to America, to the discovery from our point of view. You could visit there and see some replicas of the boats. From Huelva, following the Atlantic shore, we'll arrive to Cádiz, a beautiful province by the Strait of Gibraltar. Capital is very, very beautiful, but also they have these impressive ruins from the Roman period by the beach in Baelo Claudia. And it is a surfers or kite surfers paradise, because the town of Tarifa, just by the Strait of Gibraltar, is a mecca for that sport. You could see how much fun they are having over there. So please visit Tarifa if you like that kind of sports. From there, we are going to visit the capital of the region, Sevilla, with its impressive cathedral and the Giralda bell tower, but we'll see later. And then also one of the stops we are going to have in depth, the beautiful city of Granada with the impressive Alhambra and the mountains of Sierra Nevada behind it. From Granada, other of the provinces is Almeria. Not that well known also, but it has beautiful landscapes like the Cabo de Gata, like, almost, deserted beaches, very peaceful areas, natural spaces, and also beautiful towns, that kind of traditional, typical white houses town, like the one of Mojaca. And finally, at the end, we'll have a relaxing view of the sunny coast, the Costa del Sol, one of the holiday resorts that we have in Spain, one of the most popular in Europe. Okay, this has been an overview. but also I want to show you a little video with some images of Andalusia. I hope you enjoy it. Beautiful images. Before starting with the series, I want to give you a little bit of context. So it's going to be brief, but some history, because Andalusia has been a crossroads during centuries. And that's why we have this interesting and wonderful background in our traditions, monuments, history. So the first civilization that we've heard of is the one of Tartessos from the 12th century before Christ in this area of the south, pretty much the area of Andalusia. We don't know that much about them. We found archaeological remains like this beautiful treasure, very delicate pieces, but we do know that they were trading with the Phoenicians and with the Greeks. So Phoenician and Greeks, both of them, they set little trade cities along the coast of Andalusia. After the collapse of this civilization in the 6th century before Christ, we got the Iberian people, the Iberian tribes, and the Carthaginians. They took over then. That happened around the 4th century, 4th century, when they controlled the whole area of the south before getting in trouble with the Romans, with the Punic Wars. So the Romans arrived to the Iberian Peninsula in the 3rd century BC. They took over. First, they set these two provinces. Andalusia should be this Hispania Ulterior, the south. Later on became the important province in the Roman Empire of Baetica. It was Hispania in general. It was one of the better places or the most important places along the Roman Empire. In the 5th century after Christ, we got the Visigoths from Europe. They almost took over, except a little space in the south during a while taken by the Byzantine Empire. But later on, the Visigoths, they set a kingdom with the capital in Toledo, controlling also the south of Spain. And this is a very important moment in the history of Spain, but in particular of Andalusia, because in the 711, the Muslims, the Arabs, they arrived through the Strait of Gibraltar and they conquest almost the entire Iberian Peninsula. And they set this emirate of Cordoba. In the beginning, it was depending of the Caliphate of Damascus. But in the 10th century, the Emir Abdurrahman III declared the independence of Damascus, and they set the Caliphate of Cordoba, the moment of splendor of Al-Andalus, with the capital in Cordoba. Later on, 1 century afterwards, they split in different little kingdoms, still Muslim kingdoms. Already the Christians, they arose kingdoms in the north, but that was a moment of the decline of Al-Andalus. So from the 13th to the 15th century, we have this Christian Reconquista. So the different kingdoms, Castilla, Leon, Navarre, they were taking over to the south of, to the moment when they arrived to Andalusia. And finally, in the 1492, the year of the discovery of America, the Catholic monarchs, they conquest the last Muslim kingdom, the kingdom of Granada. So at that moment, Andalusia, it was formed by these 4 kingdoms, but we only have one king, the king of, or the queen of Castilla. From the 16th to the 18th century, we got the Spanish Empire with the colonies in America and in the Philippines. So Sevilla became one of the most important cities in the world because all the trade with the Americas arrived to Europe through the port of Sevilla. So Sevilla became the port of the Americas and made the city very, very, very wealthy. In the 19th century, Napoleon, all over Europe, Napoleon and the French troops, they arrived the conquest for a while, Spain, revolution, liberalism. But in the beginning of the century, we got our first constitution in the province of Cádiz, in the very south. And in the 20th century, finally, well, complicated century for us, an awful civil war during the 30s, a long dictatorship of Franco till the 1975, when we got back to the democracy. And for Andalusia, they had their autonomy, the Statute of Autonomy in 1981. So they got a political independence from the central government in Madrid. Okay, that was a little overview to very understand, to have a context for the information I'm gonna give you in each of the cities. That is the flag of Andalusia. We are going to start with the city of Cordoba, because Cordoba was the very important capital during the times of the Mass in Spain, and one of the most important cities in Europe for many reasons, because of the military power, because of the wealth they have, because all the people coming from all over to get knowledge in the city. So during a couple of centuries, Cordoba was a very huge, important city in Spain. As in history, among flowers and horses, because flowers and horses are very important for the city. The population of the city of Cordoba is about 325,000 inhabitants, was founded by the Romans in the 2nd century before Christ, and is the only city in the world having 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I'm gonna show you on the map. The first one from 1984, the most impressive mosque we are going to see. 1994, the whole historical quarter. In the year 2012, the Festival of the Patios that happens in spring, that kind of intangible cultural heritage of humanity that happens all over the city. And finally, a couple of years ago, 2018, Medina Azahara Caliphal City. We are going to start to enjoy the visit in Cordoba with the Roman remains. So the first important monument we have is the Roman bridge. And also, still we have kind of a Roman temple. The Roman bridge was built in the 1st century. And at the entrance, you have a muslin tower, Calahorra Tower. And at the exit of the bridge, getting the entrance to the city, we have the gate of the bridge, Renaissance style 16th century gate. The Roman temple from the 1st century, dedicated to the cult of the emperor, Augustus at that moment. And other remains that we have, mausoleums from the 1st century, the remains of a theater into the Archaeological Museum, and even the statue of Seneca is a modern statue, because Seneca was born in the city of Cordoba, this important Roman philosopher. Now we are going to check out this other part of the city, the Muslim city of Cordoba, as they call it, starting with the mosque. And then we'll see the Medina Azahara, the Jews quarter, they call Cordoba the city of Cordoba. The great mosque that later on became into a cathedral was started by the Emir Abderrahman I in the 8th century. You are going to see to the right how it was extended. Abderrahman II commissioned the first extension in the 19th century, in the 9th century. Al-Hakam II, another extension in the 10th century. Al-Mansur later in the 10th century, the last Masonry extension. And finally, they built the cathedral after the Reconquest in the middle of the mezquita, in the middle of the mosque, in between the 16th and 18th century. Let's take a look on the mosque, over the mosque. This is a huge, impressive building with the cathedral in the middle, the beautiful patio, the courtyard of the orange trees with the bell tower, you could see from there. Normally it smells very good in spring with the flower of the orange trees, the azahar, it is really smelly. And inside you have these impressive areas with all these Islamic Arab horseshoe arches. That is the mihrab, one of the most important part of the mosque. We have little, light coming from the walls. Christian chapels, because after the Reconquest became a Catholic temple. That is a view of the mihrab. And what is impressive is once you are walking around this Arab part of the mosque, you'll get into the center of the building to see this impressive Renaissance, Gothic to Renaissance style cathedral. It's really a view when you are there. It's an active cathedral, so they have services and they have other kind of activities. Music is also very important with that beautiful pipe organ. Okay, so don't miss the mosque when you are going to Cordoba. A part of the mosque, another important site in Cordoba was the Medina Azahara Palace City. It was built in the 10th century by the Emir Abderrahman III, was the most important king of the Al-Andalus, and the one who declared the independence from Damascus. And it was built to impress the other nations, the ambassadors coming to Cordoba. They need to travel from the city to there, like in Versailles, for instance, as Louis XIV did later, It was a palace, a city built to impress everyone. Beautiful gardens, impressive gates, and also very beautiful palace inside. Nearby the mosque, we have the Jews' quarter. The Jews were living both with the Muslims and later on for a while with the Christians in this area nearby the mosque. So beautiful streets, squares. They have still, we have still a synagogue. Beautiful alleys. This is a very typical picture from the Alley of the Flowers. You could get the alley with the bell tower of the cathedral at the background, and even a monument to Maimonides, who was a very important Muslim Arab philosopher, living also in Cordoba. Now, after the Muslims, we got the Reconquest, the Christian Reconquest. So we are going to check out some of the buildings, like the Royal Alcazar, the churches built after the Reconquest, and the royal stables, and finally, the main square of the city. The Alcazar of the Catholic monarchs was built after the Reconquest from the 13th century over remainings from the Romans and from the Arabs. So you have here a view of the towers, one of the patios, and the beautiful gardens. The Arab, they love gardens, and the Christians, afterward, they kept that tradition in the south of Spain. Water, flowers. These are pictures of these so-called Ferdinandine churches, commissioned by the King Ferdinand III, the one taking Cordoba for the Christians, and they were built from the 13th century in different areas of the city, not only with a religious purpose, also to control the population in the different neighborhoods. Another example. And the royal stables in Cordoba are very, very important because they were founded by Philip II in the 16th century to create a new breed of horses, mixing Spanish horses and Arab horses. So we got the Andalusian horses. They are really beautiful. And you could see beautiful animals. And in there, in the royal stables, they have almost every night this Andalusian horse equestrian show with even flamenco dancers. It's really awesome to see. Finally, the main square in the city, Plaza de la Corredera, was built in this kind of Castilian style. It's the only way, the only square of that kind in the south. Normally we have this kind of squares in Castilla, in Madrid, in other cities, but not in the south, only in here, in Cordoba. So we are going to see a little bit of Cordoba. When you are in a city like Cordoba, you are touching history. That is the Roman bridge with the access from the fortress, Calahorra Tower, the water of the gardens of the Alcazar, beautiful picture opportunities for your selfies. An overview of the Alcazar with the background of the cathedral, historical center of the city. At this point, you could make a stop to have a snack, some tapas, these Spanish appetizers that we love to have almost every time. Nice Spanish wine, olive oil. Those are the royal stables, the exhibition of horses. And this is looking at Al Sahara, with Khalifa to impress outside. And I view it and the native street, those in Alcazar, and the question show. You are welcome to visit Cordoba anytime. It's an impressive city. And it's very well connected with Madrid by high-speed train, for instance. From Cordoba, and before getting to Sevilla, we are going to make a stop to speak a little bit about gastronomy. Many flavors to discover. Yes, we have many good things in Spain, and in particular in the south, like fruit, vegetables, Iberian ham, olive oil, sausages, cheese, a lot of things, seafood. And everything is coming from our resources, the sea, the land, and we like to enjoy that with our friends. Not that much in the last year, because, we are in a pandemic, but it's what we like to do. This is the Jerez, the sherry from the province of Cádiz. Salads, also we love to have that, the Mediterranean diet. And we like to have meals with friends, with family, fancy places, and over the beach with some sardines. And this is the moment for you to take note of a couple of recipes, very, very easy, that I wanna share with you. We are going to start with a very easy tapa. Bread with tomato and olive oil and ham. So you need bread, you need to cut in slices, toast it, and then put some garlic first, spread tomato on the top of the bread with the garlic, that way, some little salt, and very, very important here, extra virgin olive oil, and finally, the delicious Iberian ham. We have all kinds of hams, from the most expensive to the cheaper, but all of them are really delicious. So that was your first tapa to make. And now, another traditional appetizer, the Spanish omelette. Also very easy, but a little bit more tricky. You need potatoes, eggs, salt, and olive oil. First, you need to peel the potatoes and cut them in slices, like he's doing, okay? Little slices. Then you need to put a lot of olive oil in a pan, get it very hot, and fry the potatoes well down. You put it apart. Exactly. Some little salt on your taste. And for a regular omelette, you will need 5 eggs. You need to mix them, some little salt, mix with the potatoes. And when it's all mixed, you need to fry the whole thing. You need to fry both sides. So this is the tricky thing. You need to turn it over twice. And that's it. Then you could cut and slice. And this is what we call pincho de tortilla. For us, tortilla normally is the Spanish omelette. And just to finish with this, we'll learn how to prepare a delicious, refreshing sangria. We love sangria, in particular summertime. So you need some regular wine, not very expensive. In this case, we are going to put 2 peaches, cut it in little pieces, 1 apple, a liter pretty much of orange juice, the juice of a lemon. I need to make some syrup, sugar with a couple of spoons of water. You need to get it boiled like that. And then add it to the sangria. And final touch, a cinnamon stick. And then you need to put it in the fridge to get it cooler. Some people, they put ice. I don't recommend it because, you know, it loses the flavor, okay? So that is sangria, perfect for the summertime. Okay, my friends, so after this stop for refreshments, we are going to visit the main capital, the charming capital of the south, the wonderful city of Sevilla. Sevilla is the 3rd largest city in Spain with 700,000 inhabitants. It was founded by the Romans in the 3rd century for Christ. And it has 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Altogether, in the historical city center, was given in the 1987 Cathedral, Alcazar, and the Archive of Indies. So we are going to take a look over those places. First, the cathedral. After the visit to the cathedral, we'll make a stop for an ice cream or for some tapas in the Santa Cruz neighborhood. And from there, we'll visit the Real Alcázar, the Royal Alcázar. And finally, the Archive of Indies. The cathedral was built in between 15th and 16th century. This is an overview of the exterior. It is the largest Gothic temple in the world and the 3rd largest of the Christianity, only after St. Peter's in Rome and St. Paul's in London. This is a view of the main altarpiece. One of the sides, the beautiful buildings is the bell tower, La Giralda. It's a muslin tower from the 12th century. And also inside, we have the memorial of Christopher Columbus with his body. I'm telling you this because some years ago, they did some of those DNA tests, and apparently was right. We have part of the body at least. Let's take a look inside the beautiful Cathedral of Seville. This is the access from to the patios, like in Cordoba, because the cathedral was built on the top of the former mosque. So they kept the tradition of this courtyard with the orange trees. But those oranges are not eatable. We normally have those trees to decorate the streets in Andalusia mainly and in the Mediterranean coast, but the oranges are bitter oranges. So please don't eat it. We use them to prepare a marmalade. This is a view of the main nave with the altar piece, the main altar and the altar piece in the middle of the cathedral. All over the church, all over the cathedral, we have chapels commissioned and paid by wealthy families along the history. Impressive columns, Gothic, impressive and huge columns with the pointed arches. Music is very important also, so they have an impressive organ for the celebrations because it's an active church. Some details of the main altarpiece. And an overview of the construction, this Gothic impressive building. Also with the treasure, some of the rooms where they have, the treasures of the cathedral, and the beautiful stainless windows to get lights inside. It's really awesome. Some very important people, they got married in the cathedral, like one of the daughters, one of the sisters of the King Philip VI, and very famous people also, but you need to pay for that, it's not for free. So from the cathedral, we'll make a stop to recover our forces in the Barrio de Santa Cruz, former Jewish quarter. Narrow streets, little squares, colorful balconies, and nice squares to have a rest. And from there, after the ice cream, we'll get into the Royal Alcazar. That is the main, one of the main access, the Lion's Gate. It's a complex of different buildings built in different periods. So the first one was built by the Muslims in between the 10th and the 13th century, the Alcazaba. After the Reconquest, 13th century, they built a Gothic palace. And finally, another Christian king, Peter I of Castile, in the 14th century, commissioned the Mudéjar Palace. Mudéjar is an Arab word for that buildings built by Muslims, but after the Reconquest. So keeping the Arab tradition of crafts, like this one. This is the interior, the ambassador's room, made to impress with this wonderful dome. And again, the gardens, like in the other Alcazar we saw in Cordoba. Incredible, beautiful gardens. This is a beautiful pond with this kind of Renaissance Baroque background. But if I give you this picture, probably some of you could recognize the kingdom of Dorne from Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones came to Spain several times along the seasons to film some of the chapters. And in Sevilla, they used the Alcazar, the gardens of the Alcazar. Finally, we are going to visit the Archive of Indies, a Renaissance-style building from the 16th century, an ancient merchant exchange house founded by the King Charles III to put together all the documents from the times of the discovery and of the Spanish Empire. So you are an historian or you wanna study anything related with that, you should come to Sevilla and in particular visit this archive. And Finally, we are going to do, after this visit, we are going to do another walk, another tour along the river, the Guadalquivir River, very, very important for the city. Guadalquivir means big river, because Guadal is the Arab word for big or bigger. Okay? So we are going to start this tour in the Torre del Oro, the Golden Tower, by the river. Then we'll stop by the San Telmo Palace. Afterwards, the Royal Tobacco Factory. And finally, the Maria Luisa Park with impressive Spain Square, Plaza de España. I call this tour Gateway to America because it was a gateway to America. And the location of the Golden Tower, a muslin tower from the 13th century, was exactly where the harbor, the former harbor was located during the Spanish Empire. They call it that way, Golden Tower, because the sun reflects on the stone, getting this kind of shiny color. Other people, they say that it was covered with tiles, golden tiles. I don't know if that was true. It's controversial. Nowadays, they have there inside a maritime museum. Another view. And this is the San Telmo Palace that we'll find afterwards from the 17th century. Now is the presidency of the government of Andalusia. It's like the White House in Andalusia, but it was built to be the University of Navigators. Could you imagine such a palace just to be a place to teach sailors and captains? Impressive. Inside, you could also admire this beautiful Baroque chapel. After San Telmo Palace, we continue to check out the Royal Tobacco Factory from the 18th century. One of its kind building at that moment, huge, one of the biggest buildings we have in Spain, the second biggest, only after the El Escorial besides Madrid, now houses the University of Sevilla. But during the Spanish Empire until the 19th century pretty much, it was the Royal Tobacco Factory. So they made cigars inside. This is the main entrance, one of the patios. And this is a picture of the ladies working inside. Women mainly, because they had smaller fingers, so it was easy for them to roll the cigars. And I'm sure you're familiar with at least with one of them, called Carmen, because the Opera Carmen was located in Sevilla in this Royal Tobacco Factory. And from there, we could have a relaxing afternoon throughout the Maria Luisa Park, a park given to the city in the 1914 by Maria Luisa, a princess related with the royal family. And it was very important for Sevilla because in 1929, they held here the Ibero-American Exposition to get reconnected with the former colonies. So it was very important for Spain in talking about trade and commerce, political relations, and it happens in Sevilla and was an excuse to enlarge the city, to extend the city towards the river. All the countries participating, they said they built a pavilion. So this is one of Argentina, nowadays a School of Music and Dance. The beautiful one of Colombia, nowadays is the Consulate. The one of Mexico, part of the University of Sevilla. And this was the pavilion of the United States in kind of colonial style, like buildings in California I've been there, so I remember some. It was a consulate for a while, during many time, but nowadays it's an exhibition center for arts and paintings. And the one of Portugal, because both countries of the Iberian Peninsula were participating. But the main pavilion was the one dedicated to Spain, the Plaza de España, Spain's square. Impressive building. Was built. We are going to take a look at it. We have different buildings representing the different kingdoms of Spain, Castilla, León, Aragon, connected with the center of the square with those bridges. You could walk all over with these corridors. And also you could hire one of those romantic row boats, friend, your fiancé, family. Let me ask you something for later. In this place, a couple of three very important American films were filmed. I don't know if you could recall some of them. Later on, we'll see. You will ask me later, okay? Because some of them, a couple of them are very, 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 very popular. Sevilla is a beautiful location for it. And at night, you could have one of those romantic carriages. Okay, that was the Spain's Square. And finally, the river, as I told you, is very important. So we have several bridges. And one of the things that normally we do when we visit Sevilla is to have one of those river cruise, going all over, checking all the bridges along the river. So the oldest one and the first made in iron was the one of Triana from 1852, connecting the city center with the beautiful, charming neighborhood opposite, the neighborhood of Triana. This is another one from the 30s, the Bridge of Los Remedios. Modern ones like the Centennial Bridge over the harbor. And the last two, they were built on occasion on the 1992 International Expo in Sevilla. The one of La Barqueta, and the most impressive one, built by the Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava, the Bridge of Alamillo. Both of them connecting the city center with an island in the middle of the river where the exhibition took place in 1992. And there's a lot of things to see in Sevilla. It's the biggest and largest city in this adventure. So I'm gonna give you some more options, interesting options. The ruins, the Roman ruins of Italica outside the city are very, very interesting. The Bull Ring of Sevilla, very important if you like that. The Fine Art Museum. Some of the churches related with the Holy Week, an important event in the city. And a final surprise, a very modern building from some years ago. So Italica was the first important Roman city in this area, not Sevilla. They moved to Sevilla afterwards and they called Sevilla Hispalis. But Italica was the most important during a while city of the Roman Empire in this area. It was founded by the General Scipio in the 3rd century before Christ. And it was the birthplace of two of the most important Roman emperors, Trajan and Hadrian. Nice mosaics, an amphitheater, and also a theater. But if I give you this picture, you could also recognize Game of Thrones, because they film it here too, not only in the Alcazar, but also in here and in other locations around Sevilla. So this amphitheater of Italica became a dragon pit, if I'm correct, of King's Landing Kingdom. too many information in that Game of Thrones series, but I think I'm correct. The Bull Ring of Sevilla, one of the oldest in the world from the 18th century, housing also a bullfighting museum. And the Museum of Fine Arts is one of the most important museums of art in Spain, specialized in Spanish Baroque paintings. Maybe 3 of the most important artists they have there are Murillo, was born in Sevilla, Zurbarán, or Rivera. I'll give you a couple of examples. The one to the right is Murillo, the one to the left from Zurbarán. Barockian, very Barockian Spanish style. And then if you have more time, a couple of visits to churches related with one of the major events in the city, the Holy Week. The Basilica of La Macarena, the one of the sun, remember? You know, the authors of that song, they were born in Sevilla. In fact, this is the Virgin of La Macarena. Hope Macarena, Virgin of the Hope Macarena is the whole name, Esperanza Macarena. And also the Barockian Church of El Salvador, impressive nave, and also with these images, the image of Christ. And this is my final surprise. It's called Setas of Sevilla. Setas, mushrooms, because of the shape. It's the largest wooden structure in the world, opened in the 2011. Inside also they have an archaeological little site. Let's take a look. You could get, it's a kind of viewpoint with a square at the bottom where people normally eat and they hang out. So you could get upstairs with an elevator, and they have these walkways all over the roof to see the city from above. Beautiful pictures, nice activity, except when we have 110 degrees in summertime. Please don't do it then. So with the lift, you could get also to the archaeological site where they founded Roman remains, because they were building a parking place. So they found remains. Okay, so that was Sevilla. And now, because we are in Andalusia, and in particular in Sevilla, coming from Sevilla, some of the passion and traditions related with this region, flamenco, Holy Week, but not only that, bullfighting also is part of our culture, and the horses, as we saw in Cordoba. We are going to start with the flamenco. Flamenco is a lot of things: music, clapping, dancing, and came from the Gypsies when they arrived to the Iberian Peninsula around the 1700s. They established this traditional art. When their culture get mixed with Arab and Christian and tradition. It's all about fashion, very colorful, and not easy to do. Sometimes you could think how easy to do that way. No, it's complicated. Look there. Wow. And also it's men and women alike, different styles, these beautiful dresses. This Palacio Andaluz is a very important place to enjoy flamenco in Sevilla. And from the flamenco to the Holy Week. We are We are a Catholic country, so we celebrate the Holy Week, in particular in the south, and very especially in Sevilla. It's one of the major events. During the whole week, from Palm Sunday to Easter Monday, they have processions from major churches. This procession uses Virgin, Christ, moment of the Passions, and those passos, we call it, are taken by people with nights, and sometimes these processions takes hours, like 5-7 hours, coming from the church, passing by the cathedral because they have an itinerary, and getting back at evening or night again to the church. That's the whole. Very impressive, very touching. Even part of the week. So it's a very special moment to visit the city of Sevilla. And after the Holy Week, a couple of weeks after, we have the April's Fair, La Feria de Abril. It is a celebration of life. We are celebrating spring, the good weather. So everyone get dressed in colorful costumes, coaches, horses. Everything is about dance, having fun, family and friends, doing drinks, tapas, all day long. People, they work. I mean, they supposed to work, but they find a moment to other and have fun. And also during the April's Fair, we have a fighting fair, one of the most important in the world, the one in Sevilla. So if you are a matador, a torero, you need to come to Sevilla and have a very good afternoon. So, Feria de Abril, another perfect moment to visit the city of Sevilla. And from Sevilla, we are heading to the east, to the wonderful city of Granada, the last Muslim kingdom. This is a view of the Alhambra with the mountains of Sierra Nevada behind, the highest peaks in Spain with about 11,000 feet with a ski station, very popular ski station over there. Granada is a smaller city, medium size like Cordoba, with about 233,000 inhabitants. Was founded by the Muslim dynasty of the Visigoths when the Al-Andalus kingdom with the capital in Cordoba collapsed. The different small kingdoms, they set their own dynasties. So this is the one of Granada in the 1013. And it has 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Given in the 1984, the Alhambra and Generalife all together, and 10 years after, 1994, the Albaicin Quarter, opposite hill to the hill of the Alhambra. Let's start with the Alhambra and the Generalife. It's a complex of fortresses and palaces. So the first building to be built was the fortress, the Alcazaba, from the 11th to the 14th century. Some overview and interiors. And then the Nasrid palaces, built from the 14th to the 16th century. We have 3 palaces, in fact: the Mexuar, is the entrance, the Palace of Comares, the Palace of the Lions, and later on was added the Emperor rooms in a Renaissance style, Christian palace. Some of the patios and the interiors. This is Comares. This is the Palace of the Lions with the very popular and famous courtyard of the Lions Fontaine. Some details. And this is the Emperor's Room, the Christian addition later. Together with the Palace of Charles V, outside the complex of the natural palaces, was built this Renaissance style palace in the 16th century. It has an impressive patio. It's very big, it's very funny because if you put yourself in the middle and you sing, you could be here all over. It has an impressive acoustic. In fact, they have concerts in that palace. And finally, the Generalife Palace and the gardens. The Generalife Palace was a summer palace. It was a part of the main buildings of the Alhambra, closer to the mountains, so it was cooler in summertime. So the Emir, the royal family, they prefer to live over there. Beautiful gardens and awesome interiors with the views to the Albaicin quarter in the opposite hill. I'm gonna give you also this gentleman that some of you maybe will know, Mr. Washington Irving. He was traveling all over Spain in the 18th century and he arrived to Alhambra and he realized how much important the Alhambra was, because till that moment, the people in Granada, they really didn't care about the remainings of the Alhambra. So because Washington Irving, the authorities understood how much important that heritage was. So inside, we have a little memorial to that visit and also a statue in one part of the gardens. So from the Alhambra, we need to get down the hill to the city center. So then you'll visit this area of the city center along the Catholic monarchs Reyes Católicos Street, and also the cathedral and the surrounded area. When you get downhill, you will arrive to Plaza Nueva, New Square, with the former courthouse from the 16th century. Nowadays is the Supreme Court of Andalusia. And in the other side, you see this beautiful small St. Anne Church, also from the 16th century. If you keep walking by the Catholic Monarchs Street, you'll find this monument dedicated to Isabel la Católica and Columbus, when he's asking her the permission and the money to travel to America, because that happened in the Palace of the Alhambra after the Reconquest. There's a small spot called Corral del Carbón from the 14th century, former muslin warehouse. That's interior. And a charming square, Carmen Square, Plaza del Carmen, where they have the city hall with a peculiar statue at the top. And then we'll move to the area of the cathedral, very, very close. It's a building from the 16th century. It's considered a masterpiece of the Spanish Renaissance. In fact, it was the first totally Renaissance style cathedral in Spain, although it was built at the top of a Gothic layout. That is the main nave. And beside the cathedral, we have an important spot, an important place to visit, the Royal Chapel from the 16th century. This is Gothic, late Gothic style. And it's important because we have there the memorial of the Catholic monarchs. They wanted to be buried in Granada as Granada was the last Muslim kingdom they took back for the Christians. That's the memory. And in between the cathedral and the Royal Chapel, nearby, we have this craft market, the Alcaiceria market, a former Arab souk. Still now, with a lot of little shops to buy souvenirs of handicrafts. But let's take a look over the city of Granada. This is the Alhambra, the Alcazaba, the fortress, the first part of the complex to be built in the medieval times. We are going to see in a moment the Albaicin. This is beautiful quarter in front of the Alhambra. Now some of the patios and part of the gardens. This palace is the Generalife Palace, the summer palace. The beautiful courtyards with the water, flowers, trees everywhere to enjoy their stay. The Palace of the Lions with the very popular fountain in the middle. And this is the Palace of Charles V, Renaissance, beautiful palace, an overview of the Alhambra complex. If you are visiting Granada, you need to visit Alhambra, but you need to be careful and book your tickets in advance because normally are sold out. So you need to think ahead a couple of months at least. From the Alhambra, we are getting into the city through this, following the river Darro through this Carrera del Darro street, charming walk down the hill to Plaza Nueva. This is St. Anne Church, and we are going to see in a moment the facade of the former courthouse. Here we have. And nearby, we have this craft market. I saw you in the picture, to have many opportunities to buy a souvenir on anything nice. Those, the business they have here, small businesses, normally are passing generation after generation, and are specialized in different kind of fish, jewelry, Moroccan style stuff, and many souvenirs and postcards and things like that too. But in between shops, you could find also nice and unique gifts. From there, around the corner, we have the cathedral. This is the main facade of the Renaissance style cathedral of Granada. It's a nice area to walk because mainly it's pedestrian, the whole city center, an overview over the facade. And the Royal Chapel. The Royal Chapel, although was built also during the 16th century, the very beginning, they kept the Gothic style, very late Gothic style, Isabelline style, sometimes they call it, and with this beautiful altarpiece and the memorial of both the Catholic monarchs, Isabella and Ferdinand, and their daughter, Joanna, and her husband, Philip. They have the coffins underneath, so you could walk downstairs and see the coffins. They are not open, but you could see the coffins. And Granada is also very popular and very well known because the way we enjoy life. In particular, having food. Because the tapas, these Spanish appetizers, in Granada, in many places, are for free. Well, not for free. You'll get a free tapa with a drink. You pay a drink, like a vermouth, it's very popular in the city. You'll get a free tapa. Normally, these places, they have a list from where you could pick whatever you like. And each time you buy a drink, you'll get another different tapa. And sometimes with a couple of 3 tapas, you are done. And maybe 4 euros, 5 euros, the price of the 3 drinks. This is another beautiful part in the Albaicín, the lower part of the Albaicín, is known as the tea shop street, because they have many of those tea shops to enjoy this traditional Moroccan style tea, which is very sweet because they put a lot of sugar on it. And in some places, you could also share beautiful views over the Alhambra in the opposite hill. Obviously, those are the most expensive locations, the ones with the view, like that view. Another area nearby is the Sacromonte Hill, where they have these caves excavated into the rock, where traditionally the gypsies were living, and from some years ago, decades ago even, they have flamenco shows. So at the end of the day in Granada, you should go to this viewpoint of San Nicolas to enjoy the sunset over the Alhambra and with the background of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Perfect end of your visit and perfect picture for your social media. And finally, we are going to have a little relaxing view of the Costa del Sol, the Spanish sunny coast. Wonderful beaches, very good food, and also a lot of cultural heritage like the other cities we've seen. But we are at the end of the tour, so it's gonna be just a relaxing video to enjoy this area of the south in the province of Malaga. Malaga is the capital of the sunny coast, one of the biggest cities also in Spain with an international airport. Other important cities in the coast are Marbella, for a while, even now, a place for the beauty people, for the jet set, but everyone could go. It's expensive sometimes, but not always. And in the other side of the coast to the east, we have Nerja, more family style town. And close to the mountains, in the Sierra, over the Sierra, the beautiful small town of Mijas. So let's take a look to this sunny coast.
Unique, untamed, breathtaking. If life is a sprawling trail of branching paths, take all of them. Lose your way and find yourself in a place without parallel, the Mediterranean shore. Discover new colors. Enjoy the welcome of a region that offers you its heart, its culture, its soul, its history. Smell the sea. Share our joy. Behold our landscapes. Feel the sand between your toes. Live the adventure you dreamt of. Let your imagination soar. Breathe. Because we are nature and sea. Breeze, existence, sunsets, light.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed it. I'm now having, I'm booking my tour to the Costa del Sol in a moment afterwards the tour. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone. Good evening from Spain. And thank you again, Mara, for having me.
Well, you're very welcome, Manuel. Thank you for taking us to the south of Spain and Andalusia, which I now know that I've been mispronunciating. So sorry about that. So yeah, that was wonderful, and especially great for me too, because 3 of those cities, Sevilla, Granada, and Cordoba, will be spots that we will see in 2023. So I'm so excited now to see them live after your virtual tour presentation. So at this point, if you're ready, Manuel, we will push it over to the Q&A, and you can click on the Q&A tab to bring up the questions. You can go to the top, and we will try to address as many questions as possible. For the audience, I've put up a slide that you can see. If you are so inclined, you can tip Manuel through those mechanisms, and if you want to send a personal check, you can PM me, and I'll give you an address to send them as well. But you can certainly do it through my website, which is secure, or through Venmo or PayPal if you use those apps. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see that we have a list of physical tours that are upcoming. So I too am looking forward to getting back on the road and going to places in real life. If you're interested in traveling with our group, please join us. And I just wanted to mention this because it is something that a lot of people mention. My travel tour name is Girl Travel Tours, but that does not exclude the males. We do welcome females and males. So just know that for clarity's sake. So if you want to come as a couple or you want to come along, just feel free to inquire. So Manuel, if you're ready, we will go back to the Q&A, and we'll open them up, and you can read the question and address the answers.
Okay, yes, I'm ready, Bara. So I'll be glad to answer as many questions that I could. Okay, so first one from Janet. It says in Spanish, I've been living in Torre del Mar for 2 months, January and February in 1972. Okay, a very nice spot in the south, yes. Then Audrey, political independence consists in what? Well, the regions in Spain, they have their autonomy for their own affairs. It's like, you know, having a state within Spain. Okay, we are not a federal government, but it's pretty much they have their own government and their own parliament and their own president for the regional affairs. Okay, Audrey is asking, has the body of Franco been moved from the Valley of the Fallen? Yes, finally. It happened 2019, 1 year and a half ago. It was a very controversial, but finally we gave the body to his family. Thomas O'Toole, what is the weather typically, and what is the best time of the year to visit? Well, the weather in Andalusia is pretty much good all over the year. We could have rain and cold weather in winter, but pretty much from spring to late autumn is really good. Although in summertime could be very hot, reaching in Sevilla, for instance, Cordoba, 100 or 110 sometimes. But spring is very good time to come. And also September, October is very good time to come. Ruth Lincoln, how did the Spanish driving school end up in Vienna? Did it return to Spain? That was a tradition because of the Spanish Empire, of the Spanish dynasty of the Habsburg. The Habsburg, a dynasty ruling Spain almost 2 centuries. They came from Austria in the origin. So they got a lot of connection, that's why. Okay? And we had the schools also in Spain, in Jerez, in Sevilla, in Cordoba. Holly, when it was a student in Madrid, we had jamón serrano. Is that the same thing that you have called Iberian ham? It's not exactly the same. We have different variety of Iberian hams. The serrano is like the lower quality. The highest quality is the one we call it pata negra ham, black leg, because those pigs, they normally have black legs, and that is a very expensive one. Okay? Christina, what is your take on the debate about onion in it? Sorry, that's a funny question. Okay, she's asking me if I'm in favor or not of having onion in the tortilla española, because that is a controversial topic in all over the country, in each of the families. So on my own, I prefer it without onion. But in my family, other members of the family always wanted with onion, so it's okay. But it's a controversial matter in Spain, the onion in the Spanish omelette. Kathy, could you give us the recipe for sangria later? I don't have anything to write on. I could send it to Mara, and maybe you could get from her. Trudy, I've read there are hot air balloon rides north of Sevilla. Are there any other places where they have this? Have you taken any hot air balloon rides here? Yes, we have these activities in several cities. I never got in those rides. I'm afraid of heights, so maybe I won't. But yes, you could do it in Sevilla and other cities. It's not always, but some companies, they will do it. Trudy, is there access to the public for any of the cathedral's bell towers? Yes, for many of them. In particular, the one of Sevilla is a must-to-do visit. It takes a lot of effort, but when you arrive to the top by ramps, because they don't have stairs in that case, you'll have the most beautiful view over the city. Erika, are the palm trees indigenous to Seville? They are so pretty. Well, no. The palm trees in Spain, they were brought by the Arabs. The first one, they were planted in the Mediterranean coast, and then all over the cities of the country, in particular in the south. But they came from Saudi Arabia, from the desert. Leslie, can you tell us again what they call it, the river in Sevilla, Gateway to America? Now, well, Gateway to America was the name I gave to that little part of the presentation, because the city of Sevilla was a gateway to America. The name of the river is Guadalquivir. Let me spell it. Guadalquivir. Complicated. Means the big river in Arab. Does Spain still have monarchs? Yes, we have monarchs. We are a constitutional monarchy. The king of Spain is Philip VI and Queen Letizia. So the power is not with the king, is on the parliament that we elect. Lakshmi, sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. What are the family-friendly destinations in Sevilla? Well, many places, the park, they have, you know, other particular places for kids to have, to play, many squares to play around. Yeah, many places. Debbie, was the modern mushroom building popular with the locals? Well, with the locals, mainly is the square behind it. It's not behind, underneath, because it's like meeting points. It's more for visitors, but some locals, they could do it. You need to pay for getting to visit. Michael, I joined late, about 20 minutes ago. I just looked back. I toured Sevilla all day, March 13, 2010. I suspect this was part of a long excursion of on a cruise, and that I went on to the Alhambra the next day. Does that sound right? Well, sounds right, but it's gonna be, you're gonna be in a rush a little bit. Now, but this night you could be in Sevilla and the next day in Granada. They are not that far away, okay? Please, can you tell us the meaning of the pointed blue hats and blue cloaks in Holy Week in Sevilla? Yes, I was waiting for this question. Okay, this is a way to preserve um, the personality, the name on the faces of those brothers of the brotherhood. Because normally they make promises to participate on the brotherhood, and they don't want, traditionally, they didn't want to the others to know they were doing that, to avoid, inconvenient questions. It's no KKK costume. Probably the KKK, they copy us because it's a way to hide the face. Each of the brotherhoods in each of the churches, they have their own colors. So the people in Sevilla, they know by the colors from what church in particular they are coming from. So they have that knowledge. Lakshmi, what is the cost of living in Spain? Well, it's depending of your earnings, but it's not really high, but because we don't have, in general, okay, the regular pay for regular working people is not really that big. In the last years, it's a little expensive. Maybe you are coming as a visitor, you'll find it fine. You are coming from America or from a wealthy country, it's fine. It's not high, like really crazy expensive like Paris or London. But still, if you are in the capital cities, in the city center, yes, a lot of tourism. So, Natalia, we have Sierra Nevada mountains and Santa Cruz City in California. Why the same names? Any relation to Spain? I don't think so. Sierra Nevada means snow mountains. So because in both cases are snow, I guess. I don't recall if there's a connection, but it's true that the Spanish Empire was in California for a while. So I don't recall the connection. I will be hopefully going to Malaga in September. I've heard that Ronda is a gorgeous city. What would you recommend to see there? Yes, Ronda is a beautiful city. It's up to the mountains. It's not by the coast, but it has the oldest bull ring in the wall, beautiful palaces, an impressive bridge over a river. Yes, it's a nice stop. Ronda is very nice. What area, Jen, what area, if any, will have access to good beaches? All the coast in Andalusia, we have very impressive beaches. In Malaga, in Cádiz, all over the coast. It's one of the main resources for tourism. What about siesta? Well, if you have the time, in a regular basis, during the week, if you are living in a big city, we don't have time to have siestas. We need time to go to work, but not nowadays because we are teleworking. But during the weekends, holidays, yes, why not? 20 minutes is the perfect siesta. The cities have Jewish quarters. What was the history of Jewish people in Spain? Yes, many cities in Spain, important cities, they had an important Jew community, especially during the medieval times. But when the Catholic monarchs conquest Granada, that same year, they expelled the Jews from Spain. So most of them, they needed to convert it into Christians or just go away. Christina, how many days would you recommend in each of these cities? Well, at least in Cordoba, maybe 2 is enough. Sevilla, I will say 3 or 4. And Granada, 2 could be nice. 1 for the Alhambra and another 1 for the rest of the visits. But you could spend the whole week if you wanted. Erika, I love this tour. Thank you so much. I have a memory of staying in Costa del Sol, and we walked to a hill with 5 levels and stairs as we climbed the hill. There were shops on each level with the highest quality Mallorca pearls on the highest level. Well, probably you are talking about Torremolinos, because Torremolinos, they have a walk to the beach with those kind of levels. I'm pretty sure it could be Torremolinos, a town very close to Malaga. Manuel mentions 110 Fahrenheit in the summer. What's the climate like overall? And what will be the most comfortable time to visit the region weather-wise? As I told you, spring, autumn is better because it's not that hot, but still you will have very good weather. Is Lawrence of Arabia filling Sevilla? Yes, thank you so much. I asked you that in the Plaza de España in Sevilla. Lawrence of Arabia was filmed, and also Star Wars, The Attack of the Clones, among other movies. Is seafood plentiful? What kind? Yes, in the south, in general in Spain, we love seafood. In the south, mainly shrimps are very, very good. And also sardines and other kind of fishing, but shrimps are really, really good in the south. Anything to share about Granada and hill towns? I think I spoke already about it. So a beautiful spot in the province of Malaga and some other small white villages on the hills. Marie-Claude, how easy is it to travel by public transportation between these cities? It's very easy. In fact, the main cities in Spain and also the cities in the south are well connected by high-speed train. Sevilla, Cordoba, Malaga, and Granada are connected by high-speed train, and also by very good roads and by buses. But high-speed train is very comfortable to travel through over Spain. Andrew, where do I go for really good seafood or paella? Any place along the coast. Paella is a traditional dish in the Mediterranean coast, mainly, but all over the coastline, you could enjoy beautiful and delicious paellas. Anna is asking me if you can travel across Spain by train. Yes, as I told you, main cities in Spain are connected, very well connected by high-speed train. For instance, from Madrid to Sevilla, in a high-speed trains is about 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. So it's really good because if you are driving, it should be something like 5 hours. Susan, I thought Italy was top producer of olive oil. Wrong. We are the top producer by far, by far. In fact, we sell olive oil to Italy and they bottle with an Italian label. They need to say that part of the olive oil is coming from another country, and normally they don't say it's coming from Spain. They normally write it's coming from another European country. That's Spain. And we have the biggest companies producing and exporting. So in some of the markets and all over the world, sometimes you are buying an Italian label, but probably at the top of that company, there is a Spanish company. We are getting the markets all over. Dobrochina, another trick for you, talking about olive oil. Next party you are having about Spain. Buy extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin, the best one. Buy chocolate ice cream. So for dessert, put a bowl of chocolate ice cream, and at the top of it, a couple of 3 drops of extra virgin olive oil. If you could find it with orange infusion, because some olive oils, they have infusion, like orange or lemon or any kind. The orange infused olive oil with orange flavor, smell, is very good with the chocolate. Just a couple of 3 drops at the top of the chocolate is delicious, you'll see. Dobrochina, how does the language in Andalusia differ from classical Spanish? Is it influenced by Arabic? Well, the Spanish is influenced by Arabic. We have a lot of words coming from the Arabics. Most of the Spanish words starting with AL, which is the article in Arabic, alberca, alcázar, almohada, alhambra, are coming from the Arabic. In Andalusia, they speak Spanish, but they have an accent, particular accent, which is different sometimes in between provinces. For instance, in Spanish, I will say gracias, gracias. Sometimes in Andalusia, they say gracias. They change the sound of the C and the S, and some other sounds are different, but it's Spanish. It's not another language, it's just a dialect. Lean. Seeing as Spain had changed between Catholic and Muslim several times, what is the relationship between these two communities? Well, we haven't changed that many times. We had an invasion in the 711, so during centuries, we have a Muslim domination, and then the Christians took over. So Spain became totally Christian. So in the last decades, we have received immigrants from Muslim countries like Morocco or other countries in the north of Africa. So, well, relations are more or less fine with some conflicts, but they mingle in between the general community. So we don't have that many problems. Rosemary, who uses the Great Mosque today? It's a cathedral, it's a Catholic temple. So it's under the bishop authority, the authority of the Bishop of Cordoba. So they have services, but it's really unique, rare, having a service, a Catholic service into a mosque, right? Tuan, how much time do you need to spend in Andalusia for 3 cities? You wanna visit these 3 cities, I will say a week, at least, more or less. Only for the 3 cities. You wanna go to the beach then, maybe 10 days. Did the tobacco grow in Spain or was it brought from America? No, it was brought from America in the beginning. Also, the potatoes, the tomatoes, the chocolates, gold, silver, many things, but those 3 important, tomato, potato, tobacco, came first to Spain. But we have tobacco plantations in the Canary Islands, in the Atlantic, and also in a region of Spain called Extremadura. Is the Picasso Museum in Malaga the most famous museum in this region? Any other art museums you would recommend? Well, the most important museum in the region is the one in Sevilla for classical art, the Fine Arts Museum. The one in the Picasso Museum in Malaga is nice, but it's not the most important collection of Picasso. If you wanna enjoy Picasso, go to Barcelona. That one is the most important. So, but it's still very, very good. But the most important one is the one in Sevilla. Helen, is the trip more enjoyable if you are Spanish speaking? Well, always it's better if you speak the language of the country you are visiting, but not necessarily. We are friendly people. We have a very important tourism business. In fact, it's about the 15% of our national income, so a lot of industry there. We take care. And in the destinations you are going to visit, many of the people are speaking English, hotels, restaurants, shops, not everyone. Sometimes they are shy to speak, but you know, you are visiting and they will take care of you. If the European Union reopens this summer, when do you think we will be allowed to visit Spain? I think this is a decision for the whole European Union. So if the European Union Commission decides to reopen, most of the countries will do. We'll see, depending on the, you know, on the vaccination process and everything, but probably we'll do almost all together because all of us we want to recover the tourism, and we want to recover to the normal life. Jill, would you recommend going to Gibraltar? No, I won't. No, I'm joking. Gibraltar is a UK colony. We call it colony. They call it overseas territory in the Strait of Gibraltar. Okay, it's a tiny, tiny town. Was taken for us in a war in the 1700s. But it's very peculiar because you are in Andalusia and you get into Gibraltar and you feel like you are in an English town. They speak Spanish, so they speak English, obviously, but they speak Spanish with an English accent. It's very funny when they speak in Spanish. Wendy, is the Lemon Express in operation again from Alicante near Benidorm? Love the trip, such fun. I'm not sure because of the restriction of the movement probably is not again in business. I never took that train. Lee, where will be the best area to see and possibly interact with Andalusian horses and riders? Well, in particular in Cordoba. Cordoba is the capital of the horse of Andalusia. And also in a city in Cádiz, the city of Jerez, which is also the city of the sherry. In both cities, in both places, they love horses and they have many activities, but not only there. In other cities, you could have activities with horses. Please publish the sangria recipe. I could give it to Mara, so you could get it from her.
I will include it on our follow-up email tomorrow. We'll include those recipes that Manuel sends over. And if there's any books or movies that he recommends that will help give you the feeling of being in Andalusia, we will include them in there as well.
Okay. Susan, I'm set to come on October 20th. Do you think things will all be open by again after COVID? I hope so. October 20th, I hope so. Yes, pretty much that's the plan, to reopen the economy, or most of the economy from summertime. Deborah, are most foods made with cilantro? What cilantro is not something that normally we use in Spain, but later on, because it became popular, in some restaurants, you could get it in some of the salads and the preparation, but it's not that much a Spanish ingredient.
I will take the next and final question. Some people have been asking about our physical tour that we'll be visiting Andalusia. As part of it, we go to Portugal, Spain, Morocco. So we will be in the south of Spain. We will also see Barcelona and Madrid as an extension. If you are interested in that physical tour, it's April of 2023. You can email me at marawalsh@gmail.com. You can PM me, or you can go to my website and I will send you over the information. And you can also attend our happy hour, which we will explain the tour in detail so that you get all the great information. I want to thank Manuel for coming to us today and bringing us the south of Spain. We certainly are more equipped to go there. And I know from the chat and from the Q&A, there were so many people that you've brought back such fond memories for. So for that, I thank you. And for the audience, thank you as always for being with us. If it weren't for you, we would have no purpose here. So thank you so much for your kindness and your attention to Manuel today. Manuel, if you have a final goodbye, we'll go to you and then we will end for this evening.
Yes, thank you so much, Mara, again for having me in these virtual tours. And thank you everyone from every part of the world. I saw Australia, Canada, America, Europe, for attending and stay with us. And have a good evening, afternoon, morning. And yeah. I see you in some weeks for Portugal, a country that I love.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week on Cinco de Mayo.